Welcome to our Mr. Change Agent podcast. My name is Ron Ovitt. I'm a pastoral counselor, recovery coach, and author. And I write a lot about habits and addictions and things like that. And so we like to take time on our podcast to just talk about some issues that are relevant to how do we change? How do we make changes? And today I want to get a little more maybe scientific. I do a year-long class on emotional resilience, and I spend the first 10 weeks talking about the brain, how the brain works. And I don't want to get real technical here, but as you stick with our podcast, you'll learn more and more about it. But I want to talk a little bit about overcoming habitual thinking, especially when it comes to some more of the chronic type programs. Usually what I find out is when we're talking about chronic type issues, it's where the emotional center of the brain, the limbic part of the brain, has become oversensitized. Specifically the amygdala, if you want to look that one up. But the amygdala is that part, that guard shack, you might say, that causes our brain to force us into either fight or flight or freeze. It's that danger or Will Robinson type thing that happens when we feel alarmed, right? And that amygdala becomes oversensitized. Have you ever had an allergy? You know, my wife, for example, was allergic or had an infection, and she went and she took some pills. The doctor gave her some softer pills, and she seemed to get worse. But then they gave her an antibiotic. She got better, and it had to be 6 months, a year later, she got another infection, and she went back and they gave her softer pills. And she got worse again, and well, they gave her antibiotics. She got better and didn't think nothing about it. Must have been, a year later, she got another infection, a similar infection, but this time she had some of the softer pills left because she hadn't finished taking them, right? So she started taking them, and almost immediately she got sick. I mean, really sick. And we both went, oh, it's the sulfur pills. And sure enough, she had it checked out. She was allergic to sulfur. And that's how allergies kind of work. They get worse with time, right? Well, it's the same thing when we have our amygdala and it becomes overactivated. It's there to protect us, but sometimes it becomes overactivated, and we need to be able to bring it back. We need to be able to bring the amygdala back to where it should be. The brain is that way. It's wired there to protect us. For example, let's take pain. All right, pain, chronic pain. Pain, normally, when you have an acute pain, it takes there's about 16 areas in the brain that register pain, but 9 main areas, and they have about 5% of the neurons are firing when there's acute pain. But over time, when pain becomes more chronic, and it starts earlier in the day, it's sore, it spreads a little bit. At that point, when it becomes chronic, it's taking up 25% of the neurons. Went from 5% to 25%. Why? Because there's competition for neuronal fighting. The thing about pain is supposed to stop you from getting hurt, right? Your leg is broken, you move it, ow. The body's telling you, the brain's telling you, don't move it, leave it alone. Leave it alone, don't move it. Pain is there to protect us, but then it becomes acute. And even after what should be normal again, it becomes not non-normal. And because the brain is oversensitized, chemical sensitivity can be that way. What started out as something that was really harmful to the body soon became over-exaggerated, and now you have all kinds of sensitivity toward all kinds of smells, and it gets worse and worse. And what we know now is that this overactivating of the amygdala can be brought back to normal activation. And we've seen it happen over and over again. And there are things that we can do that will reset the brain. And a lot of it has to do with thinking, our beliefs, visualization, a lot of things that I teach in my class and that we can kind of learn here in these podcasts as well. And today what I want to talk about is some of those things that keep us stuck. So I have some questions for us, some questions that you can consider and ask yourself. If you're in one of these situations, that's addictions, for example. Isn't an addiction really where what became a regular use of a substance became exaggerated in your brain, where you're craving it all the time? In a sense, it's an oversensitization again. And so we want to be able to bring that back, right? So here's a couple questions that you can be thinking about and maybe working on in your own self. You know, we can return to normal functioning, and that's exciting. We can take our brains back, but it takes effort and it's going to take time. And part of what we do with Mr. Change Agent is provide different videos and tools for you, and we're committed to helping you in that area. But sadly, what happens so often is that we get an insight, seems like it's going to work, but then our habitual thinking gets in the way again. And we get discouraged and we go right back to where we are. So here's some of the kind of thinking that can get you in trouble, and I'll tell you what to do about it. First is predicting. You know, when you have a chronic pain, have you ever noticed that you go to take a step and you're already anticipating the pain? It can be that way with chronic fatigue, right? You think, oh boy, if I do that, I'm going to be really wiped out for the rest of the day. And chemical sensitivity. If I go into that area, there could be some chemicals that are going to alarm me. Now, those things are true, don't get me wrong, but I wonder if we don't set ourselves up, if we haven't already activated the amygdala to respond in a much more strenuous way than it should. And so predicting, our brain's a predicting machine, and when it comes to believing something dangerous, it's constantly predicting, you know, whether there's going to be danger or not. And perhaps what was dangerous at one point was worth predicting about, but now it shouldn't be. For example, there have been people that had a rear end collision in their car, maybe 2 miles an hour, and they had whiplash. And so they were taken care of, but 3-4 years later, they're still having a neck problem. There's nothing wrong with that neck, but there's something going on that's causing the neck pain. And I'm sure that part of it's that prediction, you know. Gotta be careful, you know, in this kind of predicting. So what we need to do instead is quit anticipating, and this takes discipline. But it works. You need to quit anticipating the negative situation. Instead, you're working on, you know, new ways of thinking, and you want to anticipate getting better a little at a time. You want to start believing now that this is going to end. That your time of this chronic kind of pain or this chemical sensitivity or your chronic habitual addictions, it can end. You need to start believing that. It can end. And it starts now by not anticipating so much. Start arguing with yourself. Maybe this is the exception. It doesn't have to happen right now. You need to catch yourself predicting. Say, stop. I don't need to worry about that. This is going to end. And I believe, you know, as a pastor, counselor, and a minister, I believe, of course, God can help in this. And I encourage you to pray about these things and talk to God and ask Him for help. Have faith that you're going to get better. And when you start predicting, say, stop it. I know it's going to get better, and I need to stop predicting these things. Another variation of that's what I call the sky is falling. You know, you're constantly thinking about the problem. Your hypervigilant state keeps you on guard, and it primes your brain to continue your present condition. And the goal here is to rid of this situation so you don't have to live in that kind of fear. It's really a false fear, and you don't want to live in it anymore. It's sort of like cigarette smoking. People think it helps them relax, for example. But when you look at it, what are they relaxing from? They're really a lot of times relaxing from the craving that's happening because of the nicotine. They're really relaxing because they're craving a cigarette again. They're on a rebound. Their addiction is taken over. And then they take their cigarette and it calms them down. Well, we have to realize that sometimes all this kind of hypervigilance isn't really protecting us. It's really causing it to continue. And so we need to realize that this false alarm, that it'll soon be over. And you can say to yourself, I don't have to worry or obsess about this. Because that's what you're doing. We obsess. We obsess about these things. It's a learned behavior, and I don't have to listen to it. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die here. I can take care of this situation. In addictions, we do that a lot. We get this craving, and we have to realize, we have to rename it and say, hold it. This craving It's an aberration. Yes, it feels real, but it's a false alarm. I don't have to listen to it. I'm not going to die if I don't take it. And so a lot of times we have to handle some of these fears or this constant obsession about it in that respect. The third thing is this need to be pitied. Now, this is a hard one because who wants to think that that's what we're doing, right? No one wants to admit it, but there can be a lot of gain to having a chronic problem. And you have to ask yourself, when I teach on addictions, I say, what are we gaining from this? What are we gaining when we're angry, right? A person that's habitually angry all the time, what do they gain? Well, a lot of times they get what they want because everyone fears them, or they bully people into things, right? There's gain that comes from our behavior. And so we need to ask ourselves, is there attention, compassion? Are there freebies? Who knows? Are people doing things for us because we can't? What are we gaining from this? Or what are we avoiding? What are we avoiding because of this condition? Could it be personal responsibility for my situation? Not having to work? Less pressure to perform? Something to blame my problems on? I mean, I know these are tough questions, but we need to be honest with ourselves. We can get into a rut. And so instead, we need to face our life and take it back. Inch by inch, we need to take our life back, face up to our situation, and we need to change it. We need to know that we're on our way to change. And how can moving forward, even with the consequences from the past, be worse than staying this way for the next 5 years? Huh? You can have friends, affirmation, good feelings about yourself without all the trauma. Without all the trauma. Well, number 4, another one is becoming an expert. Now, I can fall to this one. Always studying in order to understand, not necessarily getting better, getting on Google all the time and looking things up. We're overanalyzing, but it doesn't solve the problem. In fact, it keeps us thinking about it all the time. It sets us up. And so what we need to start doing are things that will solve the problem. This program that we're doing here, when I'm talking about this kind of thinking, it takes time and it takes discipline. We need to catch ourselves. We need to start doing it. And it's not going to be an instant fix. But over time, as we take charge of this thinking, we'll see things change. We'll see it change. It's not a magic lamp or some hidden secret, but it's important if we quit trying to be an expert all the time and start looking rather to make the changes that will change us. Well, next time we're going to get into some more of these. Will be session number 2 here that we'll be talking about some more of these questions. I hope that this has stimulated some of your thinking, and we'll be back with the next podcast here to talk about more of these kinds of questions that keep us in our funk, that keep us going in this negative way.